Hey guys, Darren Kelly, Coach of Boys Pods, and welcome back to another team review post round 8, a third of the way through the season, and we made some pretty good moves in round 8. Scored the 22-72, so pretty good. Top 2 rank, sorry, 2K in round rank. And moved up again another 5,000 spots this week, so moving in the right direction. The last 2 weeks jumped up over 10K. So the team is starting to come together, and it is a good feeling after starting pretty poorly coming out of the early season buys. But I think it was just generally a week of where a lot of bad teams probably scored well, and that's just sums up my team at the moment. It's not a good team in particular, but it's just one of those weeks where a lot of the premiums that a lot of the good teams have just didn't perform, and that allowed the worst teams like myself just to get a bit of a leg up this week and have a bit more unique players that did well. So let's just quickly jump into my +3, -3, get those out of the way. So +3 has to go to Harry Sheasel. I ended up bringing him in last week and instantly put the VC on him for his 134 against Essendon on that Thursday night. My third 130 plus in 3 weeks as my captain is pretty impressive. And it absolutely shows why my ranking is starting to skyrocket, because I'm just getting it right at the moment and my trades are working out. It's not going to last forever, but it's definitely nice to be on the right end of a few trades at the moment. And yeah, I try and do my best to give you guys as much advice to do the same, but again, it is ultimately your decision, and it can go the opposite way very easily. But very happily with Harry Sheasel there, and yeah, obviously he is a huge target for a lot of people this week, so yeah, it's nice to have him already slotted in there. Just that halfback role for him is just so juicy. We know what he can do, and it's obviously something that was flagged last week, obviously knowing that he was going into the halfback role again. Didn't take many kickouts. I think that's still going to be Caleb Daniels' role, so I'm not super concerned about him just yet. But he's obviously someone I will talk about soon. But Harry Sheasel in this halfback role, we know he can go 120 plus very easily. So, yeah, I don't think they're too worried about him. Good time on Tog as well. Good run. The only question I have is if you're looking to trade him in, is look at your buy structure, because I know a lot of people are quite heavy in round 12s, particularly myself. I've got 5 currently now, so I will not be looking to trade in any more round 12 premiums at this stage. So yeah, I'd highly encourage people to look at their buy structure, as we only have 6 more trades until the buys start, so you really want to get that structure correct. Starting this week, particularly 3 weeks out, it's not a huge amount of time to get it right. So definitely have a look at that. My -3 is sort of hard to pick, because there was a few outline scores in my team. A Bice or a Lindsay's there, but I have to give it to Saligo. I think someone that's priced at over 850k before the start of the round, coming up against Colton, who have been a pretty good matchup for most people. They're a very high contested game style, so it means there's a lot of stoppages, means there's a lot of hitouts, and usually means there's a lot of tackles. And he just did not put up a single tackle in this game. He's starting to become a real concern, because even his CVA's dropped a fair bit in this game. I think he only spent probably just quickly check it for you while you guys are here. The 44% of time in the midfield there, so that's been a bit of a drop since the early rounds. So yeah, he's really becoming a bit of a concern, and one I may look to jump off this week with a tougher run coming up. They go Port Adelaide. If I'll quickly switch that over. Port Adelaide, then Collingwood, so 2 very tough matchups in the next 2. Then obviously into Sydney and stuff like that later down the track. So his runs pretty much come up, and yeah, to think that I've traded him in after he's 115, probably averaged 70 in my side in that period. So he has been a massive fail pick, and one of the big reasons why my rank went backwards so early on. So I'll be glad to see the back end of him if he goes this week. Yeah, so time to go, realistically. But I could also give it to Bice or Lindsay, but they're rookies at the end of the day. But I guess we'll quickly review my trades, because that's obviously something that did change from my trade mode video end of last week. So obviously with the news with Oliver being out with illness, whatever you want to call that, I just took that as he is obviously dealing with not wanting to be there again is obviously a huge concern. So I just took that as I'm not risking it. He may not be back next week. He was already sort of done his job. He's made what 131k. He's put up some very decent scores, but again, at the end of the day, I'm not attached to him because I don't think he's going to be a keeper for the year. He has the potential, but he hasn't shown that for quite some time. So, uh, and it sucks because he had such a good matchup, right? He was going up against West Coast, and there was never any chance I was trading him out if he was playing. But he's starting to come into a bit of a tougher run now. Hawthorn's probably the toughest. Sydney's starting to become a bit tougher now as well. Collingwood and Port are also the two toughest matchups in the league. So 4 out of the next 6, super tough. So I just took the chance, jump off him, and I was able to get up on the other side. Obviously, jumped on Harry Sheasel off Bergman. Was very happy to jump off Bergman there as well. Had a bit of a better game with 55, but again, that was a lot of intercept possessions. None of the real cheap stuff like we're used to seeing from him. But again, was a tougher matchup against the Western Bulldogs. So yeah, glad to see the back end of him. Dropped another 55k. So yeah, glad to see him gone. But besides that, I did jump on Henry Hustwaite because he's sort of the only one I could get up to. I did toy with, do I go to Henry Hustwaite or do I go to Philippo or even go down to a Boxall and just bank the coin for this week. But ultimately ended up on Hustwaite just because I was a little bit concerned with Boxall with what his role was going to be, because obviously we knew Steele, McRae, and Garcia were going to be in the midfield, and there was obviously the chance of Philippou playing as well. Like if Philippou played, what role would Boxall actually have then? So I wanted to at least have a look one week. Obviously he went really well. Glad he slowed down in that second half because yeah, that was looking very dire in that first half where he was on 60 points at halftime. I should probably bring him up so you know who I'm talking about halftime. But yeah, he'll be a huge target for everyone this week. Why is he not? Why isn't it coming up? No idea. Anyways, but yeah, he's a massive target this week. If you don't own him already, he is the one to grab because he has the lowest break even. I think a break even of 7. So I'll be jumping on him this week. But yeah, Henry Hustwaite is the one that I jumped on and very pleased with what he put up. Put up the 87. Wasn't the way I intended for him to actually score. You know, last week we saw him only score pretty much through disposals. This week, a lot of his points came from marks and tackles, only having the 19 disposals. Very handball happy, which is a bit of a concern. I don't particularly like handball happy players, but with the price tag he is at, I'm not too concerned at this stage. Again, it is only going to be like a 3-week play because obviously Connor Nash is due back for the Brisbane game, so we will see whether post Nash coming back into the side whether Hustwaite survives. If he doesn't, then he's an easy switch off at that point. I think I'll probably gain 100, if not 150k at that stage. Already gone up to 40k this week. Lower break even again up against Melbourne. Very good matchup. Not as good as obviously the past 2 years had, but they love to concede marks particularly, and Hustwaite proved that he's able to spread and get plenty of marks as well. So glad I jumped on him. For those that are looking to jump on him this week, I probably struggled to really suggest that. That's not me gatekeeping him at all. That's just, it is now a 2-week play at least, or at most realistically. So it is a very short turnaround, and you're probably going to make 100k. Whereas again, I really like to put my value at a trade at about 150k to make it a worthwhile trade. But the only scenario I would encourage you to do, or would allow you to do it, is that if you're upgrading, like sidewaysing sort of like a TDK to maybe a Cherry, or if you can get up to Gorn, and then maybe getting a rookie up to Hustwaite, because that still is like you're sort of getting off a mid-pricer in TDK to a premium ruckman, but also getting from a rookie to a mid-pricer. So it's essentially a double upgrade, and you're going to get a lot of points upgrade on field that way. But you're really ultimately going to look at which rookies are you fielding, because a lot of the rookies that we have at the moment are doing quite well. Reed, Trainer in the back line are absolutely just seems so stable at the moment. Bias is also there. I think that was just a blip in his scoring. I think he'll go back to being good this week. So he's someone that I've toyed around trading out just because he does have a huge amount of money in his head. And if he's the only one you can jump off and get to the best player possible, then I'd advise to do it. But otherwise, I expect him to bounce back this week against Essendon. We saw what Sheasel was able to do against them, so they showed that they are susceptible to these sort of defenders that are roaming and are happy to get +6s. So I think Bias is due to bounce back. Then we've also got Lindsay and Boxall. I think he can loop between them fairly easy this week. Obviously, Boxall plays on the Friday night, and then Lindsay plays the first game Saturday, so both very early games. I think we all have plenty of looping options at the moment. Moraes is out. Who else did I have? I had Stone is also another really, really useful one where he's got forward defender status. So I've got loops on all lines at the moment, and Stone doesn't play until the second last game on Sunday. So have a look at your looping options and make your plans accordingly. Obviously, there's a chance that Stone does come back, or even Moraes, but I think it's very unlikely. I think both their what's it called, people they got subbed out for, a Fonte and a Lamontes, something like that. They both played particularly well, so I don't see either of these two coming back into the side. So make your plans to do some looping and try and get the most points on field. It definitely goes a long way when it comes to performing and being a really good coach. So yeah, it's just part of our game now. You got to make the most of it. I know some people hate it, but a lot of people love it at the same time. Where was I at? Got sidetracked. Henry Hustwaite. Back on topic. Really happy to have him. He's gone up to 40k this week. Break even of 31. Up against Melbourne. I do think he goes well for the next 2 weeks, particularly. But like I said, may need to be traded out when it comes to round 11 when Nash comes back into that side. The role wasn't as good as I sort of expected it to be, especially when the likes of Cam McKenzie was out. I expected him to have a bit more CBAs, but 50% isn't too bad. Obviously, the fourth midfielder there, rotating with the other guys. Did spend a little bit of time on the bench. 74% isn't great. Would like it to be closer to the 80 mark, but that's what you sort of got to get with these risky mid-price picks. So glad that one sort of worked out for me. I guess now we go through a quick player-by-player review. Messiah 103, pretty disappointing. When you're looking at his stats, you go 28 disposals and 10 marks. To only get 103 is pretty disappointing. Whenever you see double figure marks, you expect a bit more. But yeah, he was just playing off that halfback. Didn't play a lick of midfield this week, so I think that shows that they prefer him as a halfbacker. His counterpart, though, Jack Sinclair, is the other major concern. He's spending a lot more time forward, which is good. Is probably poor. It means he's going to drop in points average wise. So I'd be a little bit concerned there if you own him, but probably not enough to jump off just yet, unless we see it for one more week. He did spend, both up the field and down the field. I still think he took plenty of kick-ins. Looking at this, took the two, only the 3 kick-ins for the game, which is pretty amazing when you think of it, a whole game, and they only kicked 3 behinds. So, what game was that? That was that's just because Fremantle just couldn't do nothing. They kicked 3 behinds in the entire game, only kicked 5 goals. So, very unlikely to happen again. So I think Jack Sinclair just had a bit of blip. Hopefully he bounces back for anyone that jumped on him. Roberts, 86. Again, I probably expect him to bounce back a little bit more this week against Essendon. Again, they really like to give up points to those good defenders. And the next sort of 3 weeks is pretty decent. Even, to his buys, pretty good. So I'd make your plans to probably trade him at his buy if he's really becoming a bit of a worry for you. So yeah, I'd still be holding him there. Jaden Shaw, I know a lot of people are looking to trade him this week. Particularly just because he's been pretty poor. I think a lot of people are getting pretty fed up with his, 90 average. Has made a little bit of money over the year and been a pretty solid pick, just considering the defender options that we had have been pretty subpar. A lot of those premium defenders have dropped in coin quite a bit. Whitfield's probably the only exception of that rule. He's actually made money this entire season, gone up 14k. Zorko's dropped a huge amount since then. If you jumped on Ash, you'd be absolutely loving it. He's still trucking along at a pretty good pace, even though with that sub 90 score on the weekend. He's second lowest for the year. Again, tough matchup. I wouldn't be too worried there. Besides that, we have had a few other underpriced players like Noble and Bowie that are absolutely killing it, but they have started to real drop away at the moment. Which is probably something that I should mention is that West Coast are really starting to become a bit of a problem with defenders. Like, I think we've seen the last couple of weeks where we've expected them to have pretty good scores, and they just haven't because the ball isn't spending much time in the defensive 50. So it's just going out of the centre, straight into the forward line, and that's pretty much where it's living. So not allowing really any points in the back line. So that does raise some concerns. I guess Trainer's the first one that counters this week against obviously West Coast. So if you are relying on him in that back line of yours and at D6, then I'd be a little bit cautious because he could be could very well drop a bad score. So be wary of that. But he's besides that has been a very consistent sort of 70 players over over his career so far. So yeah, I'm liking what he's doing. Who spoke up bias? Zach Reed just keeps getting it done. 100% tog on the weekend was pretty impressive, and the tackles on this man was, I don't know if it just played into his hands a little bit there, where he just was able to tackle them. The ball just fell into him, and he just got there. So I wouldn't rely on him getting tackles every single week, but the marks and the disposals are there for him. So I'm probably looking at looping him again this week against Sydney Swans. Bit of a tougher matchup in recent weeks, so he's B the E for me this week. Gotta get through this a bit quicker. So Dacos got tagged pretty heavily in that game against Geelong by Oisin Mullen. It was just an old-fashioned tag where they just did not care about Mullen getting the ball at all. It was just stop Dacos at all costs. It's wasn't looking too bad. I think it was only that last quarter where he really struggled. Just where, if I can bring it up real quick, I think he only had like 4 or something points in that last quarter. Yeah, 3 disposals, 1 kick, 2 handballs, and then obviously had a free kick against, I believe. So, yeah, only 4 points in the last quarter. Besides that, he was looking pretty good for a state ton. 88 points at the quarter mark was looking pretty good. So, but ultimately, he probably won Geelong the game. Like they were losing that game for majority of it, and then came storming home in the last. So yeah, they did really well, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see Oisin Mullen back again doing some more tagging roles shortly, which is probably something I want to look at. I don't think I have. I do have a John player. Never mind. Who do they play? They play Colton this weekend, so that could maybe go to no. I'm looking at the 1 week. They already played them. They played GWS this week, so that could potentially go to a Finn maybe. Am I looking at this right? Yeah, round 9, right? Yeah, definitely playing the Giants, so that probably goes to Finn if it happens. I don't think too many people on Finn, so probably not super relevant this week unless you're trading in a Tom Green potentially. He's someone that I have looked at this week, so yeah, definitely there's potential someone jump as a cheaper premium price. Josh Jordan Dawson, bloody hell, can't get my names right today. Another 122, awesome to see. Was a bit concerning because he didn't spend a huge amount of time in the midfield and didn't particularly get the role that we were expecting. Only below 70% this week, but you know he's just getting it done. Kicked a few goals in that game, or was it 3 in the end? Probably should have kicked 4. So yeah, he got there in the end with a huge amount of tackles and a good amount of marks as well. So no concerns. Still very expensive, and up against Port Adelaide this week, probably not a huge trade-in target for me. Rosie dropped his first subpar score since his new halfback role. I just think they came with a bit of a plan to stop him, and Port really didn't show up in this game. No real pressure, and just didn't allow the cheap chip marks around the back half of the ground. because they were just getting absolutely destroyed from the middle. So they threw him in the middle in the second half just to see if they can get some run and dash, and it didn't really help out. They still lost by 90 points. So I'll just put it down to that. Do have a bit of a tougher matchup against the Crows, but I'd expect them to get up much better for this game. So no concerns there for me. Already spoke about Jake Saligo, who needs to bloody go. This is where my midfield gets very interesting because I've got three mid prices in here that perform particularly well. Probably one of the reasons why I have scored quite well. But Marek, 109, awesome to see. He was absolutely flying at 3/4 time. I think he was on like 105 points at the quarter. Only had the 4 points in the final term. So a little bit disappointing. I did want a little bit more, but I can't be upset with 109, making a huge amount of money, and probably gave himself another 2 or 3 weeks. From my side, I always plan to have him for these good matchups coming up, particularly. But if he can survive through to the mid-season bye, then that would absolutely be amazing. Not getting my hopes up. McGovern out this week only gives him more job security and also more points probably back there, so I'm looking forward to that. I wouldn't be trading him in though because again it is probably a very short term pick, and I don't think he's going to average any more over that 75-80 mark particularly, and he's already priced about that at the moment. I probably should check on that. Just do this on the fly as we do around here. He's priced at 73 already, so he really only has probably 2 to 7 points of value left to go. So he's not a trade-in option for me, for anyone that's looking at that. Ned Long, a lot of people jumped on him last week, so if you didn't jump on him, there's still a potential you can jump on him. Again, he's probably priced around a 70 price tag as well, so it really determines what you believe he can average. If you can believe he can average 80, 85, then that's still 10 points of upside, so there's still time to jump on him. But if you think he's any less than that, then probably not worth it at this stage. But he's flying at the moment. Brought him in 2 weeks ago now, so 95 and 83. Going very well. The time on ground is a little bit disappointing. I think the CBA roll was still plenty on that game. Let me just have a quick look. Yeah, 52. About what you expect from him. It's not always going to be up there, but he's just getting it done. Good amount of tackles this week. And he just finds the ball whenever he goes. So yeah, glad to have him. Spoke about Houseway already. Lindsay. Again, it was just the West Coast matchup, so I'm putting it down to that, but I wouldn't discourage anyone that's looking to trade him out this week. Just with his higher price tag, if he gets you up to the player that you're looking for, I wouldn't stop you, but I could easily see him turning it around this week up against Hawthorn. We have seen that a lot of defenders like to give a few points up to them. Trainer, look at what he did last week with an 87, so I could easily see a Trainer doing very similar. So yeah, I'm still looking at holding him and potentially looping with him and Boxall on the bench. The Rucks is where it gets really interesting. The Maxi Gorn trade last week from TDK has really paid off from that. Obviously, a lot of my points gain this week on the top coaches has purely been down to Max Gorn this week. Obviously, with TDK only going with like a 60 something, I believe. Obviously, that's a huge deficit to Max Gorn, who scored the 158. I will say I am a little bit disappointed that Harry Sheasel got the big 134 because I did say anything that under 30 I probably wouldn't have taken as a VC option, and I was always going into Max Gorn because we always knew he was going big. It was just a matter of how big, and a 158 certainly does hurt when you were going to throw the C on him, and it only lost me roughly 24 points, I believe, is the math. 24 points. So I can't be too mad, but yeah, definitely would have helped that a little bit extra. Would have got me a lot closer to that 2,300 mark. But I know a lot of people are looking to trade out TDK this week just with his poor form. But I just think he missed the boat now, especially if you're going to Gorn. I just think he's way too expensive, so I wouldn't be doing that this week. But if you're looking to go sideways, I don't know why it's not showing me these players. But yeah, it's so annoying. Well, of course it's not going to show me these players when I'm looking up his initials. 65. He does have a pretty good run through to the buys, so that's the only factor I'll be in. Look at your buy structure. If he is someone that you want to trade at, then I'd be keeping him because he does have a decent run. He's had a couple of tougher matchups recently, which is why he's scored quite poorly. Dust Cameron, Cherry, and then Roma are all very, very tough matchups. Besides that, he had that one blip with West Coast Eagles, so I do expect him to bounce back this week a little bit with Royal Marshall. Probably puts up a solid 90. But if you're taking it now as the opportunity to jump on Cherry while he's at his cheapest for quite a while, then I wouldn't stop you from doing that. But I would encourage you to try and at least get an upgrade from a rookie up as well, if possible. So yeah, unless you're confident with your rookies, then that's what I'll say. The forward line, it is what it is. I think a lot of people went well this week. A couple of the ex-Dog boys did particularly well. Good to see Jack McRae back in form after a few down weeks or months. Sorry. Always expecting him to bounce back at some stage. Does have a fairly good run coming up, so maybe might feature in some captains coming up. I'm glad Levi Ashcroft was able to get his big 115 score, and again, just another kissed moment of bad teams going well this week, because it would have hurt me if he only put up, the sub 60, because a lot of people had Petrarca there, so only lost out 6 points to people jumping on Petrarca for the last 2 weeks. So yeah, glad to have him around, and I think I'll be keeping him for a little while longer. The next two matchups, particularly against North and Melbourne, should all be pretty easy matchups. There is only a concern if he does get rested, but we'll just play that by ear. I do have looping options there. Hawthorn, a bit tougher, but we know Levi Ashcroft is pretty good, so he'll probably leave my side at some stage. If not, he might even carry through to the mid-season bye at this stage, depending on how the team performs. Besides that, Murphy Reed needs to go, and Cleary is just ticking along as we get. I do have a fair few red dots, Stone, Moraes, Boyd, probably don't count too much, and then Closey, but I don't feel like my bench hygiene is that bad compared to most at this stage. So, but to finish off the video, I've already been going for 27 minutes, so I should finish up very shortly, but we'll look at what my options and what problem areas are. So I already mentioned that it was Murphy Reed was the issue, and obviously Soligo was the other. So I'm looking at trading both of those out this week. There's sort of a bit of rage trade at the moment. I'll see how we sort of eventuate, but I obviously need to grab Boxall. That was a no-brainer. It's really this premium option that I'm not 100% certain on yet. I do like Dunkley, just for his certainty of being that top 8 midfielder. He's obviously gets it done all over the ground. Could have had a much better game against the Suns on the weekend. Good time on ground. Doesn't have the best run. North and Melbourne pretty good, but then Hawks tough, Essendon pretty good. I'll probably just bring it up in here for you. Brisbane, so those two are pretty good. Hawks tough, Essendon pretty good, and then tougher run through the bye. So it's not the best run when it comes to, his fixture. I could probably be looking at the likes of Tom Green instead, who only has one tough matchup in the next 6 weeks, or 7 weeks, sorry. But I'm really targeting someone from that round 16 bye, because I only have the one premium at the moment on that line, being the likes of Bailey Smith. So really trying to even out my buys as best as possible, as I encourage you guys to. Just really look at your buy structure at the moment, because I cannot bring in any more round 12. I already have the 5 premiums. Could bring in another round 14 premium, but I've already got a lot of mid prices there at the moment with Long, Bice, Shaw, and Roberts. So again, I'll probably have to look at jumping off of them at some stage. We're coming up through the buys. Round 15, I'm probably solid enough there with Dawson, Rankin gone, and then I've also got Marek as well. But yeah, really want to target that long-term buy, someone that I'm confident that is going to be in my side for the rest of the time. So it's really up to either Dunkley, or it will probably be Tom Green for me. It's just I'm concerned about Tom Green's ceiling. He really hasn't done a huge amount to prove me otherwise that he's going to go big at some stage, even though he does come up against a nicer run heading into his bye. But yeah, in the easy matchups he's obviously had Melbourne in his first game back, put up the 104. West Coast, 121. Did kick 2 goals in that game, so could probably knock 12 points off that. St Kilda, 108. Not great, but besides that, it's been all tough matchups where he's just been ticking along. I think he's one that you could just pay up for at this price. You're probably paying for what you're going to get, just averaging this 102, and he's going to be there or thereabouts at the top 8 midfielders for the year. But at some stage, I'm sure he'll become a luxury trade, and you'll jump off him to someone else. So while I've got the money, I'm figuring I'll just jump to Josh Dunkley. Looking at some other options in that midfield, particularly just because I'm looking at upgrading my midfield because it is pretty shocking at the moment. I could go to Zach Merritt. I could. But tough matchup, Sydney, and the likes of Western Bulldogs. Potentially a tag coming his way. James Jordan this weekend. Probably one I won't want to trade into just yet. I think I'll wait for after that one. After that, probably around 11 is probably when I'll look to jump on if I can, just with that better run of matchups in the next 5 weeks. So that's my plan so far. Jumping on Josh Dunkley now just seems like the right fit. Again, I can't jump on either Butters or Bontempelli just with the round 12 bye. Brayshaw, I definitely could because round 13 bye is pretty good, but 3 very tough matchups in the next 3 weeks is not something that appeals to me at this point in time. So not going to jump on him. Besides that, it's really Tom Green that falls in the next in line. Walsh is also there. I could go down to Petrarca if I want to upgrade and just hold Petrarca in my midfield for a week. But I think while I've got the money there, I don't think we'll need the money much in the next coming weeks, particularly because we may have the likes of Philippou come back to the side. Kitty Coleman also played his first VFL game over the weekend. So, yeah, I'm expecting to be able to save a little bit of money in the future by just, by able to pick up these cheaper guys in the future. So, make your plans, guys. Hopefully you had a pretty good week. But please leave a like and subscribe. Leave any questions you have in the description below. If not, go to my QU link if you want a personalized question. Besides that, I guess I'll see you guys Wednesday for trade mode, where we'll talk through some very good options to trade in this week. Until then, guys, catch you later. Bye.